It is 7 o'clock on Thursday, August 8th. This is the regular city council meeting for the city of Alburnett, and we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to roll call. Councilor Traum. Councilor Bosenberg.
Present.
Councilor Suka.
Present.
Councilor Myers.
Present.
Let the record reflect Councilor West is absent, but we do have a quorum to conduct business tonight. With that, I would seek a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Bosenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Myers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we will recognize our sheriff's deputy.
How's everybody doing? Let's see, we had about 10 calls for service roughly in the town. Met our hours for last month of July. I don't really see anything pertinent that popped up that I see. Does anybody have any questions, comments? I know school's coming up. Usually I'm up here Wednesday, Thursdays, 2 to 10. I try to hang out over by the racetrack where the kids like to go around and keep an eye out for them and stuff like that. So that'll be definitely, I'll send something out to people just to make sure we're around. And same thing with pickup for the first week. I know school tends to get hectic, at least if it's anything like my kids' school in Cedar Rapids. So we'll try to make
hear they're all the same, but yes, that
we'll
was,
try to make our presence known.
that was my only comment. We did make a change. We made all of Roosevelt no parking.
Oh.
I have.
Okay, that'd be fun. All right, I like it.
Yes, there was only a small portion
Yep.
that had 30-minute parking. We just made the whole
Okay.
thing no parking
Okay.
on both sides. The school's been informed. They're supposed to be sending stuff out to parents as
Okay,
well.
perfect.
And then we will be installing some flashing crosswalk signs to hopefully help with,
Traffic getting across.
helping
Awesome.
kids get across. So, is anything from council? No, we appreciate you.
All right, thank you much. You guys have a great night.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
That brings us to citizen comments. So we have two types of comments in the city of Alburnett, those for agenda-related items and non-agenda-related items. We ask that you state your name and address clearly for the record, and you'll be limited to 5 minutes. So do we have, if you are on the agenda, we'll recognize you then. So this is just if you have comments. So are there any comments on agenda-related items? All right, hearing.
Would that be like sidewalks and stuff?
Yes. Yep.
My name is Greg Tlusty. I live at 395 Linden Street. I've been walking my dogs every morning for the last week and a half. I get up probably about 5:30 in the morning. I got 3 dogs I walk. I just been noticing habitual offenders parking on the sidewalk. There's usually maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 4, but it's not just for me, it's just for, I guess, everybody that I see walking dogs or just walking. I see older people, I see younger people, but I'm just kind of looking out for the older people that would have to step around the car or go on the grass, or, I mean, there's a potential chance of getting hurt, or and it's against ordinance too, so I just thought I'd bring that forward just to state my concern.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments on agenda-related items? Hearing none, we'll move on to non-agenda. Go right ahead, sir.
First thing, I want to apologize, I thought the meeting was next week. Otherwise,
This
I would have been prepared, but I'm not prepared.
This one came up quick.
What I'm looking to do is on September 7th, I want to close the alleyway. I have a private birthday party coming in at Givey's, Mike Givens, 102 South Main. I can get the documentation back to you tomorrow. Just close that little alleyway itself. I'll go talk to the apartment folks and let them know the same thing, because we allow them in and out through the back of the building. I don't think it'll be problem, it's gonna be from 5 Saturday to 11 quiet hours. So September 7th, 5 PM to 11 PM.
Yeah, 'cause we don't have a meeting before that.
Yeah, I know, that's why I rushed up here, because I'm supposed to be in that other one.
Right? Yeah, I don't wanna keep you too long. Any concerns from council?
Does this need any type of formal approval from us prior to the event, or is this something that can just be permitted?
Generally, council would approve any special event. This one's got a pretty minimal impact since it's just the alley. I don't really know, I mean, we could call a special.
I didn't know if we needed to, since it is just an alley and not a major thoroughfare,
Yeah.
or as close as we get to a major thoroughfare.
I think as long as he gets paperwork in, I don't have any problem.
Yeah, get it, excuse me, get us the paperwork and I'll
Yeah.
look and see what regulations are. Maybe we can do an electronic vote. I don't know
Yeah.
how that works, but yeah.
So you guys have the forms to fill out here tomorrow, I can just stop in
Yeah.
tomorrow and pick them up?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get you a copy of that.
All right, I'm gonna take off, and guys,
Awesome.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Any other comments on non-agenda related items? Alright, that moves us on to the mayor's report. I will just say, that was a busy month. This meeting feels like it came up pretty quick. We did have a lot going on. I would like to extend the biggest thank you to Mac, as well as Kenny Shoup, for helping with diagnosing, investigating, and getting that water issue fixed. It's not something we've ever dealt with. As a matter of fact, Kenny mentioned it's his first ever boil order that he's ever had to issue, and so we learned a lot along the way. I will be documenting the lessons learned for the city. One thing in hindsight I'm very grateful for is that school is not in session. I've already reached out to the superintendent to find out what that means and how we work together. So it was a blessing that way, but we did learn a lot. Mac put in a ton of time. I appreciate all the residents that brought it to our attention and continued throughout the week to keep us informed and help us kind of diagnose. It was hit and miss. We found it in the discolored water in pockets around town. And we were finally able by that Saturday to really nail down that it was at the well. What I do just want to make sure everybody knows is the discoloration itself is not anything that we're necessarily worried about. We are still looking into what it was. Mac will give you an update on well 3 later on in the agenda. So we'll talk about it specifically, but it was more so around being able to keep our chlorine levels stable so that we knew there wasn't any bacteria growing in the water. And so that's what prompted the boil order. Appreciate everyone's patience. Again, we learned a lot and we'll carry those learnings forward. But that is all I have for the mayor's report. I will move on to council. I'll start to my right with Councilor Trump.
Nothing.
Councilor Rosenberg,
Nope, I think everything's good.
Councilor Sukup,
Nothing.
Councilor Myers.
Nothing at this time.
That brings us to written reports, and we'll start with the fire department. And we do have Ms. Verna here with us tonight. So this starts on page 3. Verna, what is your official title? You're the medical officer?
I'm the EMS captain,
EMS captain.
otherwise known as the medical director for Alburnett Otter Creek Township Fire.
Perfect. Well, welcome. So we do have Ron's report, the chief's report, as well as minutes from your last 2 meetings. Is there anything you would like to add?
I don't even know what he put in his report,
Was
because
not much,
he's
but-
famous for not telling me.
He said everything's going really well, so that's what the report says.
It is going very well. I do have a question. if I wanna order supplies, I just send you guys an email?
Yep.
I did that. I sent it to Ron and to the city clerk here. I hope it came to the city clerk address here
When was that sent?
this afternoon.
Okay,
Okay, we'll take a look.
I'll see.
That's okay. And the only reason I ask what I need to do is because when we go out on a call and we use some equipment and we get back to the station and we have to replenish and I don't have anything extra, or it might be that it's all that I had and I have to have something, I can't wait a month to get it.
Yeah, so normal operating stuff, you don't have to wait for council to approve. So yeah, the stuff that you use just in normal operation. What I am working on, and it's something that, I have the council this update too, probably top of the list when we do start looking to hire a city admin, is a procurement policy so that we can really open up, make that easier for you all. Possibly get a credit card, we'll work through all of that.
Just make life easier.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, but I want to have it clear as can be, just so that there's no questions about what falls within that, so.
I just
It's
wanted to make sure.
top of mind,
Because
but-
the worst thing is coming back from a call and I don't have something to replenish with, and then I'm like calling around to the other districts and asking if they've got something that I can borrow until I can get my hands on one, and I don't want to go that route if I can get around that.
It is helpful if you can help us with the where to get it from, because I know, especially with like medical supplies, we're not just gonna go to Amazon, for those types
No,
of things.
when I sent it in today, it's out of Boundtree, and I
Perfect.
gave you the stuff to pull it up with.
Awesome. I do think John might have also done a Clark's Pharmacy purchase, and then they just invoiced the city, so that's an option as well.
Okay.
Is there a way to have them have like a, I wouldn't say a petty cash account, but something that they can, can, not necessarily a credit card, something that has that big of a limit, but, in the meantime, just like something that they can spend, provide us the receipts, and just set a very kind of, if we can kind of get an idea of what your average purchase is for these, replenishable items. Not talking like major repairs or anything like that, what they cost, just so that you don't have to run to us for permission on every purchase.
Right.
Gives you some autonomy, and do we have the ability of doing something like that?
I would say I already have questions, and this is across the board, not just the fire department, about what needs pre-approval versus what doesn't. We do have a sample resolution we'll be working on for next month, and so that might help, because it's gonna kind of spell out what can be purchased without pre-approval from council. And so I think we can maybe get there. And then, like I said, any vendor that'll invoice us, if we have a trusted vendor like a Boundtree or a Clark's Pharmacy that'll provide an invoice, that'll make it easier too.
And I don't order anything without having Ron see it too. So it's just one of those things. So there's two of us on the fire side, you guys.
And then you can, I don't know, we can structure it to where it's like, a maximum per item purchase of this and a total monthly budget of this. And if you're going to exceed either one of those,
Yeah.
then contact us,
Yeah, like I said, we've got a sample one we're gonna start looking at.
Okay.
This meeting, much like Mr. Gibbons, this meeting crept up on me as well, so I feel like I needed another meeting. but-
Yeah.
Understand how that works.
You're just talking like medical supplies and that kind of stuff, right? No equipment.
Yeah,
or
like
anything,
today
just
what I
Yeah,
was,
just,
It's just medical.
like today what I
Stuff
was
you-
looking for in particular, I'm looking for suction catheters. And I need that for our suction device. When you go out and, I'll use an example here so you have an idea. If I have somebody that is in cardiac arrest and it's code, and that's what we're working on, and almost always you can bet this person is going to vomit at some point during this time period. We have to have that suction device because I have to get something down into their trach to get this crap out. I can't let that happen. I gotta have oxygen into my patient, so it's those kind of things. And right now, What I have is those catheters are expired, so I need something to replenish very quickly here, is what I'm after.
What do,
Oh, and by the way, they're like 39 cents a piece.
Of course they are.
So I just
I was
thought
gonna
I'd tell
say,
you that.
what is the expiration on those? How long do they last on you?
Usually 2 to 3 years for those,
Okay,
so it lasts a while. Some things not so much. And and I can't let stuff expire, because when it does expire, then I'm under the gun from the state, so.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get that taken care of, and then we'll include that in our draft for next month as well. And then overall procurement policy is top of mind.
Okay.
Like I said, not just fire department, just across the board. Helps protect all of us,
Yep.
so.
Did Ron put anything in there about the driving policy?
He provided, like the non-emergency,
Yes.
he provided that to me. I've not gotten him comment back yet. Thank you for the reminder. I'll get him comment back. There were just a few tweaks I would make to some verbiage, but overall it looks pretty good.
Just making sure, because I can't do anything until I have an okay, so that I can get it to the state and get their approval.
Okay,
Okay?
yeah, so that'll be September.
Okay, sounds good.
We're gonna hold that thought for a moment.
Speaking of, did we say his name 3 times? And then he appeared.
Oh, he has arrived.
Good evening. We're in the middle of your fire report.
It's a long report.
Verna just asked about the non-emergency driving policy. I reviewed, I had just a few tweaks. I'll get you that verbiage, but
Okay.
overall looked pretty good. So as far as council approval, it didn't make this agenda, but we can get that on September.
Okay.
And then otherwise, we were talking a little bit procurement and
It's basically written up, what we're doing now, but it's close to.
perfect. And then you did have, and I don't know if that's why you're here, so I'll let you also, if you got anything to add, but the cadet program discussion was on the agenda as well.
So that's a little later.
We just put it under your report, because we don't have anything for council
Okay.
action, but,
It's just, no decision tonight. I just, there's been some interest in reestablishing our cadet program. And I know we had some, concerns in the past. It was mostly an insurance concern that, to make sure that we had a policy that, was recognized and supported by the insurance agency. But, so I'm just checking to see if council's, okay with us pursuing that and seeing what it takes to get it established again. And then, before anything official, we'd come back to the council. If it's a no, absolutely no-go, then I don't wanna waste time. So
thoughts from council?
I think it'd be a good program, just have to make sure that we meet the insurance requirements.
Well, there's 2 parts, that getting that policy to meet the insurance and then
Yep.
following the policy.
Yep.
So we had concerns with both of those in the past.
I will say it's ironic, we had a review, Chris giggled because we just had a review and I mentioned a cadet program, and so, yeah, it's already, the bug's been planted there. And did you say there were some resources?
Yeah,
Perfect, so we can lean on
EMC.
EMC for some resources to help us craft that policy as well.
All right.
So that'll be good. I fully support, I think it's a great idea. I do know there's a couple of kids in our school that open enroll and they are cadets at Central City because we don't have one.
Yeah.
But they'd love to be able to be a little closer to, where they're at school and be engaged that way. So I think it's a great idea.
Is there any type of academic requirement that we have of them? Having to
The
keep
previous one was through the Boy Scout Explorer program.
Okay.
And so there was requirements of setting up a program for them. There wasn't a certain grade level requirement or anything. It's just restrictions on what they can do and setting up a program.
You may intervene here.
Sure.
Okay. It's more on maybe some sexual abuse situations as well that the insurance company looks at, that they should never be in a room by themselves
Well, yeah,
with one
I-
individual, that could happen. They should not be in a burning fire.
yeah.
They're just to be outside.
And liability reasons,
Yeah.
I understand,
Those
but
type
just
of-
for academic reasons, treating it like an extracurricular. You know, if you're not cutting your, you know, if you're not making the cut at school, then you can't be a cadet.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially
Some-
since it could pull them out of school, so.
exactly.
The ability to leave school, when a page comes off or a call, was always left up to the teacher, that class, or school administration, so it wasn't an automatic, they had to get approval, so the grade level probably would kick that in. And under the Explorer program, we had to have a group of leaders that did go through the cruise class and certified through the
Oh, through
scouts.
scouts, yeah.
But we can figure out how to do that
Something
independently
similar.
then. And if I can, one more topic, a little bit, is we've got some minor purchases, well, not too costly purchases requested, but there's some medical supplies that is needed. And then I brought in a request for a purchase of a battery backup on our radio system. It wasn't installed when they built the station. I know we're getting a generator, but we had storm watch, and every time the power just has a little blip, the radio shuts and has to reboot like a computer, and you're out of communications for a while. So if we can get that, it's mentioned it's about a $200 purchase for a battery backup.
Okay. That also did not make this month's agenda, so we can add that for September.
Well, that's really my question is, what type of things require a council approval versus a administrative approval?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. So we were just talking, we do have, one thing I want, when we look to hire the new city admin, is a full procurement policy to really be built out. In the meantime, we do have a draft of a resolution for exactly that. What can be purchased without council pre-approval. What we have right now is primarily the resolution that we currently, we got from Walker, is things like utilities, like the normal bills, but I'd like to build in some operating type expenses into that, so.
So our medical supplies, we
Yes.
can wait for another month for council approval?
No, not for like the replenishment of medical supplies. That's what I'm like, the battery backup. I don't know. If it's only like $200, you guys have a budget?
Yeah, a budget, why don't you just buy that stuff?
I think I had heard it was
We got a
7,200, so that's where I was
budget,
like,
but I
that's,
don't know what it is. And,
What's that?
through the city, the fire budget?
yeah, we'll get you a report. We're still working on getting that into the system. It's 90% there. We've got to tweak a couple of things, but being that it's August, you've got your full budget available, so. So 200. I heard it was 7,200, so that, and that could have been my ears picking up. So,
I think I texted it or emailed it. It's Best Buy. I checked with Eric, because it's Raycom Harrison radio, and I said, what do you use? And what should we get? And he says, this is what he gets for their power sites and all of that, so,
okay. Yeah, we can get that ordered. So it's just Best Buy?
yeah.
Yeah, we've got an account there.
Okay. I'll leave that with somebody.
Perfect.
Keep passing.
Yep.
That's
oh,
all.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, and we'll get more clarity around, because that's not just fire department, it's, Mac has that question often too, like, can I, can't I, do I have to wait? So it'll be good to just put some clarity around it.
Okay.
Awesome. Anything else on fire? Questions from council? Perfect. All right, that moves us on to Public Works. We'll recognize Mac. This is gonna be on page, give me 1 second here, 13.
just a couple things to add to it. I've been working with LEC on the SCADA project this week. We got most of the hardware installed. Run into a couple of issues. The transducer we thought we could reuse at the small lift station isn't working, so they're got to order new parts and a couple relay switches that they didn't anticipate. But we're pretty close to back to the way it was as far as that goes. And then once they get that done, I'm looking to add alarms to the system, because before it was pretty minimal of how it alerted everybody if it was basically just low or high tower, or if a pump failed. I'm trying to get them to add that if a well pump fails, for example, it alarms that, not 3 hours later when the tower is too low because it didn't pump. So that way, quicker response time, get things fixed faster, stuff like that. So there'll be some engineering work on that, networking, but LEC's taking care of that. Most of the rest is for well 3, so I can wait on that.
Any questions for Mick?
How's the sheep doing out there? Keeping it down?
It's about ready for a mow again. It's just so much rain, it's growing faster than they can keep up with it.
I do want to point out, only because it's related to an agenda item, he does have a note under streets about the tree removal at the intersection of Howard and Main. It's in the city right of way. We have notified the owner, so no cost to them, but we just out of courtesy wanted to let them know we'd be taking down that's not really a tree, not really a bush, but whatever it is by the stop sign.
We're taking it like all the way down this time, right?
Yes, and so that's why we have stump grinding on the agenda. Mac will take care of actually removing the tree bush and any of the debris, and then we'll have the stump ground out to get rid of it. Yes, because it was a stump that just regrew, so.
It's hampering visibility to come through that intersection, so.
Yeah. Anything for Mac? Next is City Clerk Treasury. We'll recognize Vicki. Anything to add to your report?
There's just one correction to my report. 2 payments came in on there was 3 that were in default. We sent notices out, 2 payments came in, so there's still 1 outstanding instead of the 3.
Any questions? So like I mentioned, Vicki did a great job. She's been working with clerk books. We're pretty close on the new budget, getting that in the system. So you'll start getting those reports again once we have that fully ironed out. But we have just a couple of questions or tweaks where things didn't necessarily match. So we'll have to fudge a little bit within, like fire, for example, just to make sure it matches what we sent to the state. But she was working off of our working spreadsheet. No questions? Brings us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Suko. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Myers. Any further discussion? Oh, actually, were we gonna pull that invoice
For,
from Houseby?
what did you decide on that? They shipped it today, they said,
Okay,
so.
alright, we should be good then. We can hold the check until we make sure we get it. Basically, we got an invoice from Houseby for $88 for a part for the skid loader, and then realized Vicki put it on there because she got the invoice, and then Mac's like, wait a minute, we didn't get this part yet, so hopefully that straightened out, so, but he talked to him today, we were gonna pull it before that, but. So, pleasure of council on that, if we are comfortable that the part has been shipped. Alright, so I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Brings us to new business. Item A is to approve the annual renewal rates with EMC. And so what you do have are the premium rates as well as the invoice that was in the claims for this month. But I'm gonna recognize Chris, because there are a couple
Couple things to add to
couple
that.
things to go into
Yeah,
it.
let's talk about that a little bit. The renewal rate, if you don't mind me approaching,
No, please do.
was just under 3% was the rate increase on that. There's always a to that story, right? The difference is that the companies are coming back saying, hey, no more $1,000 deductible, no more $2,500 wind and hail deductible. You gotta do something different. Very similar with what we are seeing with the schools in all cities with EMC. We're going to a 1% wind and hail deductible for each building. And we are going to a $2,500 deductible for all perils. So that means, all perils means lightning, fire, vandalism, those type of coverages. Sorry, I'm still grabbing. So when you look at that spreadsheet, you're looking at, the first one being the fire station, 1.1 million. 1% of that, nobody likes to see that deductible if there's a fire. We do have an option that we're working on through Travelers to do what they call a buy down deductible policy. What that does is reduces that 1% to buy it down to 5,000 is what we're asking them to put that at. That's the lowest that they'll let us go on there.
So that is not currently included.
That is
that's-
not
is it-
included, it will be another policy then.
It's another policy that goes with it.
Yeah.
It's like a supplemental.
Yeah. So you're probably used to seeing per occurrence deductibles. Now it's per building deductible.
And so with that buyback, we can also do it per building. So the ones where,
They don't include property out in open. So when we talk about the lift station, there's no wind or hail gonna happen out there at the lift station. That doesn't include the 1% deductible. It does on the water tower, so the water tower is on there. I didn't include, I think trying to think of which one of the buildings that was at, I think one of the buildings, the pump house right there by the water tower.
oh, well,
Which
Well, too.
Well,
yeah.
too, that's what
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah.
I didn't put that on there. I think we have it on there, coverage for like $25,000. The minimum premium for 1% is $2,500. I didn't put it on there. You can't buy it back when it's, $2,500 and then we're at $5,000. That didn't make sense to put it on there. So these are the items that I went through the statement of values, which you have a copy of that statement of value, that then shows, we're looking at these 6 items, basically.
So these are the items that you could possibly get on a buy-down deductible program.
These would be the 6 buildings that are gonna be affected,
Any
that
idea
they're
what
over 5,000
Any
with that 1%.
idea what that's gonna run yet?
No, we have asked for that. Unfortunately, I didn't get the
Sure.
quote back in time on that. So at this point in time, whether we, put that to next month's agenda and revisit it, at this point in time, it's gonna renew August 15th with the 1% deductible.
which would be the case even if we had the other one in hand. Like, it's still, it's just an addition to. So there's no harm in renewing what we have, and then we'll look into the buyback option. There were a couple of other, smaller changes on.
Right. Crime, we had, discussed the crime policy currently has $50,000 for employee theft. And I had looked at that it was only $100 for that policy. So I asked him, what's 100,000? We were still at the minimum premium of $100. So we did ask for them to increase it, but I did ask to see what's my gap there, and they have like $22 to work with to figure out where we can use up that unearned premium there for that. So we are trying to increase that coverage, but keep that, still at the $100 for that specific policy in the city's package there with EMC. I think one of the other things that we had talked about was updating and just reviewing what we call an inland marine policy, which is just a property equipment floater. It would be mostly stuff that Mac would be using, whether it's the weed trimmer, or the readers for the well stuff, that stuff that is probably in his truck going from place to place.
All the inventory you did for the fire station, hoses, so it's all the, like
That kind of-
All of that stuff.
their
It's not
chainsaws,
gonna
that kind of
be,
stuff.
it's not gonna be, the vise or the workbench up at the shop, because it's always gonna stay there. This is the stuff that's
Mobile.
mobile,
Mobile, okay.
Yep.
And you need an update on that.
yes, and I think Vicki does
We'll
have
get-
the current
we'll
list,
get
and I
to
think
work
we
on
caught
it.
a couple errors on it that will, need to update, update that, so that would,
When do you need that by? Fairly as soon as possible? Okay.
before a claim,
Before what?
before a claim,
Keep the tornadoes away.
or if
Would-
anybody would steal it,
Yeah.
the
With
thing
the
is-
medical equipment, so like I think our suction device is new.
So there is on the on the fire package, part of it is, there is a blanket amount for the medical side of it.
But that's not considered inland marine? Okay.
It just has let me say, undescripted inland marine policy for all the medical equipment.
Okay.
Cause they know that stuff is, changing out a little bit more. It would truly be for
More so just the tools.
the maintenance department,
Okay.
on that, so. But I just, didn't know if the council had any other questions regarding that, but that would be the change was the deductibles on that this year. I mean, everybody's probably seeing that with their own homeowners policies too.
So, under this, you've got an automobile section, does that cover the fire trucks, or how's that, that's there?
Everything,
That's
yep.
not bad there.
Yep. Yep.
I almost laughed when you said 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the gotcha's the deductible.
Yeah.
I can't even give you an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you, that it would probably be under 10,000.
It's probably
I do know
well worth
the,
looking into.
yeah, the school pursued it, because similarly, their building's valued at like $8 million, and so 1% of that was incredible, and
Right, yeah.
so I do know the school pursued it as well.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It is, you're probably gonna see that to be more common, especially right now on the commercial policies. There, we'll see it probably come with the homeowners too. Had a conversation today with somebody saying, I remember in real estate, that homeowners used to be $300, and I said, with a zero deductible. Yeah, those days are, no longer there, but otherwise, that was really just some things that we had discussed, with the cadet program. We discussed that a little bit. We asked for an updated driver's list, which Vicki had gotten me that, so I think we're good there, so.
Any questions for Chris? Appreciate you being here to explain the deductible. I could have maybe gotten there, but
Yeah.
Well, then there would have been more questions at that point, I know that. But otherwise, we can follow back up once we, have that.
Perfect.
Sound good? All
Appreciate
right,
it.
thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
If you do think of a question, Chris is always available to us, so
Yes.
take care.
Thank you.
If you don't have any, I flipped the packet a little bit and put the supporting documentation before the resolutions. Y'all have to give me feedback if you like that or not. That way we're not scrolling back and forth. So page 26 will be resolution 2024-24 to approve the annual renewal rates with EMC insurance for property liability, crime and fidelity, inland marine, automotive, workers' comp, umbrella, and linebacker policies. Again, these are effective August 15th. I would seek a motion to approve resolution 2024-24.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trum. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda, resolution 2024-25 to accept and award the bid for well number 3/fire station permanent generator. So you have in your packet, you have the notice to bidders, so this is what was published in the paper and what was given to anyone as part of their bid packet. And then you also have the 2 bids that we did receive. These were opened yesterday morning. Both pretty comparable, so that's good. We did receive, I believe it's $100,000 in grant funding for this generator. We are getting help with the grant administration from ECI COG, so there are some fees there, but they can take that out of the grant funding as well. So we got 2 bids, one from Hawkeye Electric for $69,985.84. And then Acme Electric for $71,912. So this will be a natural gas generator. It will sit behind well 3 and it will provide backup power for both the well house and the fire station in case of an emergency. Any questions? So the good news is when we built the new fire station, I know this was somewhat discussed and there was a lot of forethought. And so all of the stuff needed to tie the 2 buildings together is already there. The transfer switch, all the shutoffs. Actually, we discovered that the fire station, we're pretty sure the electrical meter is already on the well house. We couldn't find one in the fire station, so they're already feeding each other permanent power. So it is just drop the generator, hook up the gas line. There's 2 scenarios on the gas line that we'll work through with the contractor, so they can either bring it over from the fire station or we can run it off the main. Part of it is the cost is going to be about the same because the main stops right in front of the fire station, so we'll have to pay to have the main extended to that well house. One slight issue with doing it that way is Alliant Energy, their policy is that you can only have 1 meter per address or per parcel. And considering we already have a meter at the fire station, we would have to ask for an exception to that policy, which is not guaranteed. Whereas if we just bring it over from the fire station as a private line, we don't have to go through that exception process, but then we have to keep track of that line because it won't be located if a line ever comes out to do a locate, because it's a private line. So, there's some pros and cons to that, but doesn't change the bids regardless.
But we'd be able to locate it with GIS.
Yeah, we'll map it with GIS, take really good pictures when they're putting it in, but we wouldn't actually be able to like go out and wand it and locate it that way.
Do we know what Hawkeye's lead time is?
Oh, yes. When they were in the other day, they said lead time was 16 weeks. Acme's was 22. He stopped in this morning to drop off his bid bond, and said the company said 4 weeks. So, I don't know, I'm not sure
Who
if,
said that?
Hawkeye,
Okay.
so I'm not sure if that'll hold water, but, yeah, between 4 and 16.
So either way, they'll be able to get out here. 16 weeks, it says, beginning of December, so
Hopefully
it'd be
should
nice
still
to
be.
get that done before winter and God forbid any ice storms or anything like that.
Any other questions? If not, I'll draw your attention to page 31. I'm going to read this one. Resolution 2024-25, accepting and awarding the bid for installation of a permanent generator at well number 3 and the fire station. Whereas after the derecho event in 2020, FEMA funding became available to support cities in improving their infrastructure to better be prepared for future catastrophic events. Whereas the city of Alburnett, with the help of ECI COG, secured a grant to help fund the installation of a permanent generator to provide backup power for well number 3 and the fire station. Whereas notice to bidders has been duly given as required by law with publication in the Gazette as well as posting on the city's website and in 3 public places for the well 3 fire station permanent generator project in the city of Alburnett as described in the plans and specifications therefore. Whereas there has been filed with the city in response to the published notice to the bidders referred to above, certain proposals for the construction of the above designated improvement with the required bid bond accompanying each proposal from the following bidders. Hawkeye Electric for $69,985.84. Acme Electric for $71,912. Whereas the city council has reviewed the bids and finds it appropriate to accept the bids and to award the project to the lowest responsible bidder. Now therefore it be resolved that the city council of the city of Alburnett, Iowa does hereby accept the bids and does hereby award the well number 3 fire station permanent generator project to Hawkeye Electric in the amount of $69,985.84. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-25 as read?
So moved.
Moved by Trum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Rosenberg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, 11C, resolution 2024-26 to approve a contractor for a fire hydrant replacement. So, we did put this out for quote. Our process for quoting work that falls below the competitive quote and sealed bid process is that we publish it in the paper with previous meeting minutes. We will put what bids are open. These were also posted around town as well as on the homepage of the city website. So anyone interested is able to bid. We did get feedback from some of the contractors specific to a fire hydrant that it is cheaper for us to purchase the hydrant than it is for them. They obviously have to have some markup. So they did recommend that we buy the hydrant ourselves and then hire the contractor to install it. So
There's a
we'll,
hydrant and fittings and all that, or just the hydrant?
So
I think everything
Is
to
this-
install.
Everything to install it, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
this estimate from DSG, is that just the fire hydrant?
That's just the hydrant, yep.
And then the others are for installation?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's reflected in, we'll get down to the resolution, that's reflected in the resolution. So yes, DSG is just the hydrant. And then we received 2 bids, one from Hanley Dirt Work and one from Pierce Tobin. What I'll have you notice, and so I tried to spell this out in the resolution. So Hanley Dirt Work is $3,500. If you look at his total, there is one item in there listed as if needed, and that's the 2 panels of concrete for $800. So he included that in his total of $3,500. Pierce Tobin gave us a total price of $3,350. That's just for the installation. The if needed or contingency items are listed below. So the backfill, replacement of concrete, those weren't considered in their total price. So on the resolution, I included the price without contingency items. If that makes sense. Because it wasn't, otherwise wasn't apples to apples, and so I want to make sure we were looking at and they didn't include, so like they gave us that it'd be $45 for the removal of the sidewalk, but didn't give us the total, so I don't know, because that seems to be their per unit, like they have the tons for the clean rock. So, I didn't know how to include their contingency items as part of their total.
So you're talking 2 panels of concrete, is that 2 sections of sidewalk then?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, sidewalk, yeah.
Sidewalk.
So I just pulled it up and it's like, you got the sidewalk right here and the hydrant's right there.
Yeah,
So,
there's like the entrance from the street and then it kind of makes a 90 and the hydrant's kind of right at the corner.
Yep.
Just off of it, so they didn't know if they'd have enough room to pull the hydrant and replace it without tearing the concrete. It was kind of iffy.
Where's this hydrant at again?
First Street and Second Avenue, right on the corner.
it's like on the northeast corner.
At the intersection
Or
that needs the
northwest
concrete
corner, I
work.
should say.
At the intersection that needs all the concrete work.
At the end of my street.
Yeah.
I chose, yeah.
So, that's how it made the most sense to me to present it to council. But what you'll note, so the resolution is on page 36. I did leave some blanks in there because of the way those were stated. I mean, we should go with lowest responsible quote or contractor. But because of the way those are broken out, I left it. I would like whoever makes the motion to fill in the blanks on that particular resolution.
You ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
Move we adopt resolution 2024-6 by completing it, by filling in the blanks with Hanley Dirt Work, be the contractor for the amount of $2,700.
All right, I have a motion by Trum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sukup. With that, I'll read the resolution for everyone. So 2024-26, approving the contract for fire hydrant replacement at the intersection of First Street and Second Avenue. The city of Alburnett sought quotes for the replacement of 1 fire hydrant at that intersection. The city will purchase and provide the new hydrant from DSG for $5,218. And whereas notice to contractors was duly given, and whereas 2 quotes were received as follows without considering contingency items. Contractor Hanley Dirt Work, quote $2,700. Pierce Tobin, quote was $3,350. City council has reviewed the quotes and finds it appropriate to award the contract to the lowest responsible contractor. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Alburnett does hereby award the fire hydrant replacement contract to Hanley Dirt Work in the amount of $2,700, subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by Alburnett Public Works staff. That is the motion and second that is on the table. Any further discussion?
Just one quick question. So the Pierce Tobin includes the removal of the sidewalk in their or those are just contingencies?
Those are contingencies and they didn't really give us prices, so
Okay.
their $3,350 is just the installation.
Okay. And Hanley includes the sidewalk and comes in below that anyway.
Yes, and I did add those up independently, I didn't just take his word for it, so the $800 he had for the concrete, if you remove that from his bid, it does bring the $2,700.
Got it. No further questions.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all motion carries. Alright. It was a busy month, we got a lot of quotes. Alright. Resolution 2024-27, approve contractor for repair of wastewater valves. So we have 2 valves out of the lagoons that before our off-season drawdown were slightly leaking. They were like trickling water out. And so we were going to have, we put the calls in and Hanley was gonna do them as an emergency fix, and then we had to draw down. So now they're open, so it doesn't matter. There is a chance when we finish drawdown, there may have just been debris in there, we're not sure. So you'll see that reflected in the resolution. That Mac will inspect them one more time and make sure that they need to be repaired. But I want to get it on this agenda as an option, that way, once we've concluded drawdown, you can go ahead and get that work done. So, we did only receive 1 quote, and that is from Hanley Dirt Work in the amount of $1,573.75. So there are no blanks to fill in. This resolution reads, approving contractor, resolution 2024-27, approving contractor for repair of 2 wastewater valves. The city of Alburnett, Iowa sought quotes for repair of 2 wastewater valves at the city lagoons. Notice to contractors was duly given. 1 quote was received as follows: Hanley Dirt Work in the amount of $1,573.75. City council has reviewed the quotes and finds it appropriate to award the contract to the lowest responsible contractor. Now therefore it be resolved that the city council of the city of Alburnett, Iowa does hereby award the wastewater valve repair contract to Hanley Dirt Work in the amount of $1,573.75, contingent upon valve inspection at the conclusion of the current lagoon drawdown and subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by Alburnett Public Works staff. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution as read?
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second? Second by Bozenberg. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Alright, the next one is stump grinding. So we already talked about the location of said stump. We received 2 quotes for this one. One from Dan Sherman in the amount of $300. The other from Total Scapes in the amount of $325. There is also on page 41 of your packet, we would be able to rent a stump grinder and do this ourselves. So a 4-hour rental is $210 plus having to go pick it up, plus our staff's time to actually do the work. Seemed to wash out, and so that wasn't, I did not include that as part of the resolution, but did want to give it as an option to council. So, the resolution proposed is 2024-28, approving the contractor for stump grinding at the intersection of Main Avenue and Howard Street. City of Alburnett sought quotes for stump grinding following the removal of a tree in the right-of-way at the intersection of Main Avenue and Howard Street. Whereas notice to contractors was duly given, whereas 2 quotes were received as follows: Dan Sherman Enterprises for $300 and Total Scapes for $325. City council has reviewed the quotes, finds it appropriate to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Now therefore it be resolved that the city council of the city of Alburnett, Iowa does hereby award the stump grinding contract Dan Sherman Enterprises in the amount of $300, subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by Public Works staff. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution as read?
So moved.
Moved by Sukup. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by West. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Alright, resolution 2024-29, approve contractor for fire engine 136 repairs. Alright, TJ, I might need your help on this one a little bit. So,
Okay.
came to our attention, TJ brought, or chief, someone brought it to our attention, there's potential power steering and or fuel pump leak on engine 136. So again, we put this out for quotes in the same manner as all of the others. We received 2 quotes. Swoboda equipment repair, split it out into two separate, so that's gonna be page 43 and 44. So page 43 is to replace the electric fuel lift pump. And then page 44 is the repair of the steering gearbox. So it specifies removal, rebuild, and install. Page 45, and this is, TJ, I believe you talked to John, and so I might need your help a little bit, because I did not get a chance to call them today.
Okay.
MHC Kenworth gave us a quote to reseal the steering sector and reseal the fuel pump lift. You'll see those there. They also included the cost for, if that doesn't work, a new fuel pump and the new steering gear box. What I wasn't certain on is if there was additional labor, or if the labor was already included.
That should all be included, to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. So we may have to modify that resolution a little. I wasn't certain, so I put plus labor behind it, and I do apologize, I didn't get a chance to reach out to John today, and get that clarification, so.
Well,
On his invoice, it's got labor costs.
total
of
labor
540.
is on that.
But I didn't know if the labor was for the reseal, if there would be additional labor for, if they
If they put
had to replace it.
that, I do not know.
I would think if
I
he's
would
got
think
one
that
now.
the labor is included in that,
Is it?
sufficient to replace if
Oh.
needed.
Perfect.
Okay.
There, this has been an issue for quite a while, especially the fuel pump gasket leak. And so months ago, we got an overly phone quote from another group that didn't quote this time, but their total labor was $224 to replace that pump.
Okay.
So, what Kenworth quoted you is obviously above that, we should include the labor to fully replace it.
Okay. Perfect. Like, I said, that's on me, I didn't get a chance to call and clarify.
Also, that, had 3 different, technicians say replacing the gasket would take care of it. The pump is working, it's operating, it's just, leaks if you force it to leak.
So reseal should hopefully do it.
Yeah.
Is that the one where the part costs all of $2.50?
Yep.
That's how it goes. Alright, well, the resolution, like I said, this one got a little tricky, so it's on page 46, 2024-29. There's some blanks in here. So I do have it spelled out that Kenworth had the fuel pump reseal at $546.50. The power steering reseal at $629. The fuel pump replacement for $470.78. I had plus labor, so we will strike that. And then the power steering replacement, if needed, for $692.31. Swoboda equipment repair for the fuel pump replacement was $1,746.71. And the power steering rebuild was $1,286.43. So give me 1 second here. For Kenworth, if they have to replace the fuel pump, so for the fuel pump replacement with Kenworth, assuming no additional labor, it's $1,017.28.
Versus 1,746.
Yes. So then the power steering. Would be, now again, this would be for a power steering replacement, would be from Kenworth, $1,321.31. And James just had the rebuild of $1,286.43. Whereas their reseal alone, so the apples to apples on that reseal is $629 from Kenworth. Questions? I'm gonna give you totals here. Alright. So if Kenworth had to do all the work, again assuming no additional labor, the total would be $2,338.59. If for Swoboda, excuse me, the total is $3,033.14. We do have to mobilize to Kenworth. We'll take the truck to them. They do not do on-site, but again, that price difference is not.
For the NC residents.
Yes. Yeah, south side.
About $300 difference?
$700 difference.
Oh, yeah, 7, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it was a lot of numbers. I gave you a lot of numbers.
7, yeah, that was.
So, anyone willing to make a motion, please fill in the blanks. And I would ask that your motion be to remove the plus labor on the Kenworth replacement line items. Do we have any experience with the Kenworth dealer? They've worked on our trucks before, right?
I don't know, we haven't had too much work outside. So, on that one,
That's a good thing.
it's some distant past, so I'm assuming they have. So we had some fuel issues at one time, years ago.
It is a Kenworth truck, so
Yeah.
they,
Fixed, I'll make the motion here if I can read it right. Okay, whereas the city council has reviewed quotes to find it appropriate to award the contract to, and go with the Kenworth for $3,338,
they're the $2,338.
or $2,338.59.
All right, I have a motion by Bozenberg.
Striking the labor.
Thank you. Motion by Bozenberg. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Myers. Alright. I'll read this one, so we're all on the same page. Resolution 2024-29, approving the contractor for fire engine 136 fuel pump and power steering repairs. Whereas the city of Alburnett, Iowa sought quotes for the diagnosis and repair of suspected fuel pump and/or power steering leaks on fire engine 136. Whereas notice to contractors was duly given, and whereas quotes from 2 contractors were received as follows. MC Kenworth for the fuel pump reseal of $546.50. MHC Kenworth for the power steering reseal for $629. MHC Kenworth for the fuel pump replacement of $470.78. MHC Kenworth for the power steering replacement for $692.31. Swoboda Equipment Repair, fuel pump replacement of $1,746.71. And the Swoboda Equipment Repair for the power steering rebuild of $1,286.43. Whereas the City Council has reviewed the quotes and finds it appropriate to award the contract to MHC Kenworth, now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa, does hereby award the contract for the fuel pump and power steering repairs on fire engine 136 to MHC Kenworth in the amount of $2,338.59, subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by the Alburnett Otter Creek Fire Chief.
But striking you there.
I did that because I didn't read that. Yep.
Okay, right.
Any further discussion on that resolution? Hearing none.
Sorry, would that be not to exceed? Because if they don't have to replace the pumps, then it would be just redoing the seals.
Yeah, because you're looking at full replacement on both items, aren't you?
We don't know until they get in there. I think if we approve, if we approve
Okay.
that amount, if they,
Sure.
I think we're good. Good question. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, discussion and possible action regarding well 3 update. So, nothing in your packet for this one?
So when we found that we pinpointed where the brown water was coming from, we called Northway Well Pump Company out. They were on site within a couple days. They pulled the well, pulled the pump, the pipe, examined everything. The pipe was fine. The pump was not in good condition. They replaced the pump. They did a acidized treatment. It treats for iron and bacteria. Basically, I don't know the science behind it, but they put the acid down there and then they seal it, and they have a pressure gauge on it, and the acid eats everything away, and it all settles to the bottom, and then they flush the well. So they cleaned it all up. We thought we had it back running online then. I did a test run of wasting the well water before I was putting it into the system, and the chlorine wasn't up to standards. We think when that was pumping that dirty water, it ruined the chlorine ejectors, all that sediment. So I have those on order before we'll get those replaced before we put it back online. And I got a couple pressure gauges to replace as well. And we're gonna do an iron test one more time before we put it into the system, just to be sure that they didn't miss anything.
And they cambered it as well, so we do have some footage.
Yes, they televise it. I have a thumb drive with the footage all the way down to the bottom of the well.
That well had not been done since, been 14 years?
It hasn't been cleaned since it was drilled in 2010.
So, it's something we'll keep an eye on, because we had just run the well in April and didn't have any issues, so with the lead kind of coming out of nowhere, well, presumed lead, we don't have those tests back yet. Iron, excuse me. Presumed iron, we don't have those tests back yet. There is a difference, yes.
Yeah, Yes, we did send in a raw water sample that when we first discovered the brown water, but the results are not back yet for that.
Any questions on well number 3? So there will be an invoice coming for that. It is not something council approved ahead of time. We wanted to get it cleared up and get it fixed. Part of the reason is, Mac had a really good point, that wells 1 and 2, while those seem to be fine, you are gonna see the next item, because those have not been maintained in 20 years. They run off the same chlorinating system, so if something were to happen to that chlorinator, well 3 is our big backup there, so we definitely need to get well 3 back up and running. And then a lesson learned from this, and this was in his public works report, and something we're gonna focus on once I would like to get through maintenance on all 3 wells this year. We'll look at budget. May just have to be a budget amendment now that we kinda know some of the consequences of going through this, and that the other 2 wells haven't been done in 20 years. It's recommended every 7 to 10. We are also looking at, right now, we rotate wells monthly. So we're looking at how we can run them more frequently and almost simultaneously, so that they're not sitting.
Is that something recommended then?
Yes, both the DNR as well as Northway and Kenny, also three entities have recommended that, yes.
So maybe running 2 at a time and rotating 1 out.
What Kenny does in Center Point is he runs all 3 to fill the tower, so they all run at the same time.
Yeah, I
It
think
takes
we
some
can program it, like currently, in one cycle of the tower, it kicks on it when it hits 14 feet and it shuts off at 22 feet. Hoping we can program well 3 to run for 2 or 3 feet and then pump 2 to kick on, and so they all cycle through one tower fill
Okay.
each night. That way none of them sit for more than 24 hours or so.
But we don't wanna do that until we know they're all up to snuff, so. Any questions on well 3? Like I said, nothing in your packet on that one. Thank you. And you don't need any approval from them for any, I mean, we
No,
considered it emergency maintenance,
yeah,
so.
we haven't,
Are we looking at, I'm looking at maintenance on the well number 2. Have we spent something on that order already on this well 3?
It's
I-
probably, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't think it will be as bad because they didn't have to change any pipe. For the well 2 quote, I told him it's been 20 years, just give me a worst case scenario.
Okay.
Everything is
Okay.
gonna be replaced. So being they didn't change pipe and some other things, I don't think it'll be as much as well 2, but so we haven't got that invoice back yet. And we had the chlorine injectors are $475. Those I already ordered. Because we need to get them here as soon as possible.
So what is that total of like 40-some thousand?
Yeah, it's on the resolution, so this is for well 2.
Two.
The worst case scenario is
Yeah,
42, about
40.
43,000, yeah.
So we would just
Yeah,
do
you don't
it
have
as
to
a
buy a
not
pump,
to
that's
exceed.
40,000 right there.
Just-
Well, they did replace the pump, it's the pipe
No,
they,
in well 2. Is this for well 2?
yeah, this is for well 2.
That's what it said,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, 3's done.
Well
Yeah.
3 is done,
Yeah.
but it should be like slightly lower because they didn't have to do any pipe.
And if we decided to go to well 1, I'll get a same thing, a budget for that one. That one might be slightly more than 2 because that's a deeper well. There'll be more pipe and stuff involved, so that might be a little different. But I'll get a quote on that before we decide to move forward on 1.
How's this fit in the budget?
So this would fall, we have, I don't know, it fits, we'll have to look at what we have underwater for maintenance.
Okay.
We may have to do a budget amendment. We have the funding there, it may not have been necessarily budgeted for FY '25 to do all 3, so we may just have to do a budget amendment, but again, we went through that budget cycle not realizing how long it had been since this type of maintenance had been done. And then our hand got forced a little bit on well 3. appreciate, I know it was a long week, trying to figure out where the discoloration was coming from, and then you acted very quickly. We appreciate Kenny, he put in a ton of time getting us through that situation, so. I know I said it earlier, but Mac got trial by fire with water, which is kind of funny.
We need a snowstorm, it's water, right?
Yeah, right. Let's hope we get a break for a minute, but. All right, there are no questions on well 3, we'll move on to the next item. Okay. New business, item H, resolution 2024-30, approve contractor for maintenance on well number 2. So, as Max stated, we've generally worked with Northway, they've done all of our maintenance on the wells to date, so that is the only quote that we pursued. I do think there's something for having the tacit knowledge of our systems, as well as all the records of when things were done and all that. So this is a worst case scenario, they won't know what they're gonna get into until they start pulling stuff out. So this is a worst case scenario for the much needed maintenance on well 2. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump ahead to page 49 and read the resolution. 2024-30, approving contractor for maintenance on well number 2. The City of Alburnett, Iowa has historically partnered with Northway Well and Pump Company for the maintenance and servicing of the city's wells, whereas Northway Well and Pump Company has consistently provided reliable and high-quality service, ensuring the proper functioning and longevity of the city's water supply and infrastructure. Whereas the previous maintenance on well number 2 was performed in October of 2004, and it is recommended that such maintenance be conducted every 7 to 10 years to ensure optimal performance and reliability. Whereas Northway Well and Pump Company has provided a quote for routine maintenance on well number 2 in the amount not to exceed $42,689.20. Now therefore it be resolved by the City Council of the City of Alburnett, Iowa does hereby award the maintenance contract for well number 2 to Northway Well and Pump Company in the amount not to exceed $42,689.20, subject to subsequent receipt of permission and direction to proceed by Alburnett Public Works staff. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2024-30 as read?
So,
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Sukup. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, I do apologize, I gave you garbage page on page 50, but page 51. So item I, discussion and possible action regarding reflective signs for dead ends. So this was addressed at the last council meeting through citizen comment. This is in particular to the dead end that is in the new development, so off of Linden Street where at the Howard intersection. So it's Donald Drive. It's a little confusing because Donald Drive is also a dead end on the other side of town, but the intention is that they are to connect at some point, so they kept the name the same. So we do have a Donald Drive off of Linden, and there were some concerns about trespassing and other things there, and there was a request to put this signage. I did walk around town, there's a similar sign on Lorry Drive at the very end of the street, but that is the only other dead end. We do have 10 of them total, 10 dead ends. Lori's the only one that does have this reflective sign. So, pleasure of council if they want to put these on all the dead ends or just the one that has been requested. I will say all of the other dead ends, the pavement is the end of our street right of way, whereas the one at Linden and Donald, we have about 20 feet yet before it hits that property line. So I can see where it would make sense on that one to put an indicator. We've not received any other complaints from other landowners at the end of our dead ends, primarily the farmers. I do think they actually use them for field access, and so I wouldn't want to, if council approved pursuing it for all 10 dead ends, I would ask that you make that motion that we work with the landowners to ensure it's something that they want, but we did have the one come forward. As you'll know, minimal cost, $26.60 per sign. There's no quantity discount. We generally pick these up, right? So there's no shipping.
Pick them up, order, when I have an order, I order enough, and then, yeah, go pick them up in Anamosa.
You just put up one at each side, one end, dead end, one side.
Yeah.
I know when Donald Drive, when that was there was 3 of them.
Oh, was it?
Originally, and then they got, I don't know what happened to them. When it got
It's-
busted off.
It's probably got rid of it.
Snow plows.
Snow plowing hurt those too,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
There's just one on Lori right now, so that's what I based it off of.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
I'd say that if we've got one complaint, we go with one sign and see how things
Yeah.
go.
If that's the only place that's even mentioned it was an issue, so we just take care of that. It's not like we can't do this again in a month and throw up new signs, but I don't wanna.
That's mainly because what, vehicles going across it,
Mhm.
you know, mainly go-kart, or not go-karts,
Golf carts, yeah.
golf carts and,
Do you need a resolution or a motion for the purchase of one?
This is small enough, I didn't do a resolution, but I do think, yeah, a motion to purchase would be nice.
I'd like to make a motion to purchase, are we doing one reflective sign or,
That sounds
at
good.
the, or?
I think that's sufficient.
Okay, one reflective sign for the end of, the dead end off of Donald on the west side of town.
I have a motion by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trump. Any further discussion?
Would that mean golf carts couldn't go back there then?
So it's actually private property past where that line is, so this would indicate where the street right-of-way stops.
Okay.
Yep. And the property owner was in at the last meeting, so we did advise that he also post signage.
So we think at the center of the pavement at the property line is at the end of our right of way is what we're thinking,
Yes.
just for my install.
Yep. Do you need a post or do you have post? Do you need that as part of the?
I might actually have one of these signs in the shop still.
If not, you've got $26.60 to go back.
Got a nice shiny one.
Yeah, there you go.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. That motion carries. Alright. Discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 6907-4. This is parking prohibited on sidewalks. So, as Greg, our resident, has brought to our attention, I've also witnessed exactly what he's describing. There are habitual offenders, as well as some that may just not know that you can't park across the sidewalk. This was several years ago. We did have a resident in town whose wife was in a wheelchair, and so they didn't have the option to go off into the grass and go around. And so that's, as much as it's a safety hazard, it's not always even an option for folks. So that's why this ordinance is in place. You don't have anything in your packet on this, also, just to be clear. But I wanted to bring it to council to just see if there's anything we want to do regarding this. I mean, full enforcement would be notifying the sheriff and they would come out. I think we could probably start with whether we send a letter, make a Facebook post. There are not sidewalks throughout the entirety of town, so it wouldn't have to go to everyone. So, pleasure of the council.
My feelings, I think you ought to just send them a letter, let it, you know, give them an update of what it is.
Reminder.
A reminder, yeah, that's in our ordinances, give them the ordinance number, and then do that before you do anything else.
Is that just to the offenders or to anyone with a sidewalk?
I would just do it to the offenders.
I think you should notify everybody.
Everybody think?
Yep. You know,
I
except everybody.
send a letter to everybody, I just put it on Facebook,
Could
and
you
everybody gets Facebook.
put it on the water bill? Is there,
I don't think there's hardly enough room there.
There's not a lot of room on the water bills.
You know, it could just be kind of a public service announcement thing, so, you know, you have to be aware of this. It's like telling people you've got to shovel your sidewalks in the wintertime.
They posted on the digital sign for a while
Yeah.
saying, do not block sidewalks or
That's a good idea.
something like that.
But, you know, a letter might be able to give a little more detail and explain why it's a problem. You know, you may never think about it if you're the person living there and you've done it for 20 years. And then suddenly, you know, you gotta give them a little heads up.
I just say, I haven't been driving around since the person, since you come in last week and mentioned it to Vicky while you were gone. And so I've been driving around. I've seen a couple people, but, and I don't do it at night. But during the day, I haven't seen too much of a problem. And, you know, and sometimes it's somebody coming and, you know, they got company just for a couple hours and they park, you know, because they don't have anywhere else to park.
But there's people that do it habitually too.
Yeah, there is people.
And I know where I've been strolling around town, you gotta get
See
off
that.
and bounce around and
Yeah,
throw a kid out of the
pushing a
stroller.
stroller makes it
Yeah.
tough.
It's not bad until it's winter time, that's when it's tough.
So I don't think we need a motion on this necessarily, but everyone on board with sending letters to,
Just
As
those
a-
that have sidewalks.
or just the offenders,
Yeah, I would say just the vendors.
so.
And I would also
Whatever you wanna
mention
do.
any type of, what type of citation or penalty is there for that?
Okay.
And then it would be enforced by,
Yeah, I'll have to check with Lynn County Sheriff to know if that's something, I'm sure it's a parking ticket wise versus like a municipal infraction. But yeah, I can check
the
on that.
felony.
If I give them a warning first and then you do follow-up.
Take them away in cuffs.
All right, we can start there and see if it helps. Any further discussion on that? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to old business. Second reading of ordinance 2024-3, amending the City of Alburnett zoning map. So we had our public hearing as well as the first reading at the last meeting. So again, this is on the 3 properties owned by Dan Sherman Enterprises for his housing project that he has proposed. I don't think we need to reread it. I have not received it. Have you received any other comment? I know we're not technically having a public hearing, but we've not gotten any comment in City Hall, written or otherwise. So, I would just look for a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2024-3, amending the City of Alburnett zoning map.
So moved.
Moved by Myers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Trum. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Counselor Trum?
Aye.
Counselor Rosenberg?
Aye.
Counselor Sukup?
Aye.
Counselor West?
Aye.
Counselor Myers?
Aye.
That motion passes. So that was the second reading. We do have to do a third reading yet unless there was pleasure of council to waive that third reading. As previously mentioned, we have the time. We notified the grant folks that we'd have it through September. So if we want to leave that third reading.
Yes.
All right. So that motion passes and we've approved the second reading of the ordinance. Final item under old business, discussion and possible action regarding the fire department swimming pool filling request policy. I did update the wording just a little bit because we did more than just update the fees.
Yep.
But TJ, I will let you speak for a little bit and then we can read through the changes.
So Mac did a lot of the work, actually. Figured out how much, the original was 6,000 gallons for the, first fee of 250, so the numbers were drawn up by the 6,000 gallon mark. I broke it down by truckload. I talked to some people that had pools, and they said, you know, I only don't mind half, so what I have to do the 250 for just, you know, 4,000 gallons. So I went back, broke it down even more by our largest truck, which is 1,200 gallons. And as you can see, I kind of broke it down as to, at the beginning of the email I sent in, diesel cost, about 6 miles is the farthest we would have to go, so 12-mile round trip. And so one round trip would cost fuel and everything right now approximately $4.12, and that's with mileage and everything. So looking at kind of numbers, wear and tear, and some of the things we had talked about before, I was looking at possibly doing just the $25 per trip, and I didn't add it in the email, but we also had talked coming up right off the hydrant as well, which you had put in there, which I like that. I forgot to put that in there. So if the house is close enough to a hydrant, we could fill straight off the hydrant and not have to use a vehicle, so.
I mean, the vehicle still has to go, I mean, to take the hose.
Yeah.
So there's, but obviously they're in town if they're that close to the
Right.
hydrant. Yeah, I had notes on that from last time. And I know the chlorine cost was a question, so that's helpful to have.
Yep. Yeah, Mac did a lot of the math.
And
There's a lot of math.
how many out-of-town ones have we filled in the last few years?
Last few years, not a lot because of the initial cost, but we filled one last year. I believe 2 this year.
What's ironic is they've gotten about 4 requests this year, but there
Yes.
have been a few that it was cost prohibitive with the
Yeah.
current policy.
So it might be 5 or 6 in a normal year possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
So the previous policy also did not say how far we would go, and so I had a note on that. So the only thing I changed is that top paragraph, so it now reads that the Alburnett Otter Creek Fire Department offers a swimming pool fill service for residents within a 5-mile radius of Alburnett city limits. The fee for this service is $25 for every 1,200-gallon truckload of water. Alternatively, requests that can be filled directly from a hydrant are charged a flat rate of $50. Because we now know that the cost of chlorine is negligible, but there would still have to be a truck responding, I mean, just for the hose and those types of things, so. But as TJ also noted, it's great training, it's good on the trucks to run them and make sure the seals don't dry out and those types of things.
I think that's a good factor to bring up, because I don't think we considered that before we were talking about this. It's just good to get them out and run once in a while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And as backwards it sounds than sitting and not pumping water actually dries them out. It's
Yeah.
harder on them, so even though they got water pressed up against them, they dry out.
So does that address concerns from last meeting? I think those were good changes. And the rest remains the same, the whole harmless agreement didn't change. Any other questions, comments?
We need a motion to adopt this.
I do, please.
I move we adopt the fire department swimming pool filling request as presented here today.
I have a motion by Trump. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sukup. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. That motion carries. All right, that is the end of our packet. Final comments. Counselor Myers.
I hope this last third of the year goes more smoothly than the first 2/3. No more snowstorms, no more water issues, no more staff turnover.
Pipes, yeah.
I want to thank everyone sitting around here and anyone who's watching this as a citizen to thank you for your patience as we've gone through a lot of stuff this year. Hopefully the rest finishes up smooth.
Counselor West.
Just I apologize, I was late, I was on the call with fire department, I let Mayor know, but just so everyone knows, that's why I came in late.
No apologies.
Thanks for showing up, we don't want to inconvenience you.
We appreciate you showing up for those fire calls.
Yes.
Counselor Suka?
I just say thanks to Mac and Mayor Surzan for quick response on everything. The last month, again, a lot of crazy things, a lot of learning opportunities, so appreciate all the extra effort you put in, so thank you both.
Counselor Rosenberg?
You know, I just thank you for all the time you put in, because, you know, being mayor before, you put in a lot more hours than I ever, and a lot more stuff we went through, so, you know, coordinate with everybody and everything, and spend a lot of time here, so it's appreciated.
Thank you. Counselor Trump?
I want to thank Mac again, and also want to make a comment about it was nice to have a good description of what's going on with those wells. So when we walked in here tonight, we had a pretty good handle on what was going on.
Awesome. I forgot to mention during my mayor's report, I did allude to it a little bit throughout the meeting, city administrator, so I will be working on that job description this month, and we'll hopefully have that for you all in September. So look forward to that, because then I expect we could start hiring once we get that nailed down. So, that's all I got. With that, we'll confirm the next date and time of our meeting will be September 12th. Thank goodness it's not, as early in the month. At 7 p.m. here at City Hall, and I seek a motion to adjourn.
So,
Moved by Bosenberg, do I get a second?
Second.
Second by West, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, we are adjourned.